back. Another week. Holy crap, what happened? It's becoming like a weekly thing?
So
it's happening. What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to Valiant Tldr. My name is Carl Choi, publisher of 24/7 Comics, and my co-host.
Newell.
I'm Newell. I'm that Stingray guy.
That Stingray guy, look, you become so popular. Your art's become so popular. I mean, it's like you're on the press junket, man. You know,
I know, it's crazy. Back-to-back picks on the CAF updates. I don't know how to. I'm a little verklempt.
You know how like Reddit gives you those little like badges for like every time you do a post, like like 7-day streak.
Yeah,
I think they're gonna have to give you one of those at some point for like a 7-week streak for getting picked for Stingray.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm testing my strategy. We'll see if I get a pick again next week.
Yeah, see, y'all are much more thoughtful in that. I mean, like before I even left the show, I had already posted everything I got at the show on to CAF.
Did you use the app to do that?
Yes, and I had to go back and fix it because it wasn't doing right.
Yeah, but I just think the fact that you can use the app and do it live like that is pretty awesome, though.
But I think he's getting that fixed. So
yeah. You're getting that issue where the high res doesn't show up when you do it on the app, because when I do it on the app, you can't click on it and get the high res, even though I'm uploading the same file, and so that's been kind of an issue for me. So I think that's the only thing. So for those of you tuning in for the first time, we are talking about Valiant Comics. So this whole thing started Baltimore Comic Con 2024 when we were all hanging out at Hard Rock Cafe. Hard Rock. Jason and I was just geeking out about Valiant, and Newell was awkwardly sitting in between us, and basically was like, "What the heck are you guys talking about?"
I mean, I had if I felt like I needed it, PG-13 Carl was there. I could escape and count one of these.
He was there, but that was fun.
Yeah, but you guys were just so enthusiastic, and I had no knowledge of Valiant really, so I kind of got infected by it, and here we are.
Yeah, and we were taking our conversations offline, just mostly between Jason and I at first, and then over time, Newell just per curiosity started reading Shadow Man, and what else out there? Was it Ixo, and then Shadow Man
next, yep,
and then now Harbinger, right?
Yep.
And so we are also trying a new format, guys. So if you guys want to comment below or give us some feedback, we really enjoy it, but we're actually going to be screen sharing as we're going through the issues. And last time we went through issues 1 through 8. So if you want to check out the channel and see our past episode, we did a pretty detailed review of 1 through 7, but today it's gonna be 8 through 16. So Jason's our resident Valiant guru, from day 1 to now. Give us a little, kind of preview, if there was like a preview trailer as to what we're about to get into between issues 8 through 16.
Yes, the first two issues are going to be tie-ins to the Unity. So if anybody doesn't know anything about Valiant Comics, generally, or anything good to say about Valiant Comics, they will generally refer to as Unity as like the pinnacle of storylines. And so the 2 first issues are going to be tie-ins to that. And so some of the foreshadowing that we mentioned last week regarding the baby of Chris will be shown out in these first couple issues. And then them coming back, introduction of another team, and several other psyops. And so, leading up to obvious. Well, I think we're cutting off at 25, which is kind of where the title took a change with a different team, and all them not on there. But a lot of good stuff today to cover.
Awesome, cool. So I mean, let's share a screen. Because our favorite site is not available, we subscribe to Global Comics, and so going forward,
that art looks kind of familiar there, Carl. Who
let's go back to this real quick. So what happened here, Jason? I think that's something interesting. Actually, Newell, was this a surprise to you when you turned to issue 8 and you saw this guy?
No, because I had read the Unity issues for Exo and Shadow Man, so I knew, because he did 8 of those covers, I think, or 16, all 16. So I knew that was a thing, but it's just funny because reading each of these titles separately, not kind of reading them all at the same time. You're reading a few issues and then you get to Unity. It's just kind of like a hard stop, and then you're into that. But yeah, the covers are like just really great. The Frank Miller covers, and they're connecting covers, right, Jason? I think.
Yeah. So
there you go.
So yeah, these are the part of the first set of the connecting covers. Now, according to Jim Shooter, the way this worked out is he convinced Frank Miller to do all 8 of these first round of covers.
So cool.
The next 8 are all done by Walt Simonson. I've never seen any of these Frank Miller ones. Like
I saw one on Heritage.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I went for it at the time. I was not ready for that level of it was. I don't know if I'm ready now. Actually, now that I think about it,
that's a big commitment.
Yeah,
the Walt Simonson, he a lot of times will keep his stuff unless an inker ends up with it.
Yeah,
right.
And so I wonder if the Walt Simonson ones are actually in his archives. But according to Jim Shooter, the way he told Walt Simonson was that he wanted him to do the second round of covers, and he could not pay him what Marvel was paying him. And so he asked, well, what was Frank Miller making? And so he told him, he said, just pay me a penny more so I could say I made more than Frank Miller.
Nice.
So according to Jim Shooter, that's how they ended up with the second round of these. But yeah.
Shooter's going to beat Heroes this year.
Oh, that's going to be fun. We should, see if we get him on. But yeah. I mean, I want to comment on the art itself as well. Often as we know in modern day Frank Miller art, there's semi controversy and people starts talking about how his art's evolved. Weirdly, when I look at this, it's pretty consistent with what we're seeing today. I mean, maybe things, the figures are a little more proportionate to life. But if you were to like cut this guy out, for example, right? Like this dude, like you cut him out, he kind of looks like a modern kind of Frank Miller character,
Yeah,
me?
Right.
Or
Sin
you feel like,
City and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Oh yeah, well, this is like right at the height of his Sin City period, wasn't it? More or less.
It was. Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of see that,
Can I make one more observation?
Yes.
What's interesting is on Global Comics, they're obviously a digital platform and they're serving comics digitally. But if you look at the scan, it literally came from a comic. Look, the staples are here. So what that tells me, the actual digital files were lost. Like no one has them. So someone had to kind of provide the copies and they had to scan fresh from it. So with that said, here we go. We're in. Noel, you mentioned it was a bit of a hard stop to their adventures, and they're although chapter 8 is still kind of like them settling down from
they're still hanging out at the doctor's house that they met in the previous issue, the one that helped save Chris when she got shot. This is his summer house, and they're just hanging out with him and his family. Like it's almost like he adopted all of them.
Yeah, but there was one kind of key moment from this whole thing, right? This whole kitchen conversation that happens.
Oh yeah. That's when they first really kind of hint that Chris might be have a bun in the oven.
Yep, exactly.
And then that guy just shows up, and it's all over. It's like Unity.
Yep. So here we are. Yeah, exactly. You jump in, all of a sudden you're like introduced to all these other characters.
And that first panel there at the top on the left, like you got Exo, and then you get to that big panel in the middle. There's Rye, there's Magnus, there's Solar, like everybody's here.
Yeah, in fact, this little kind of mountain range thing is almost like the cover to Unity 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're all looking up into the sky.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of crossover across the books, and to the point to where some panels were used in one book and multiple books, and so Solar had not to spoil the rest of Unity, but it is quite it's hard to believe what a 30-something-year-old story now.
Yeah.
And so Solar gives his hand, which gives him Geoff to Geoff to go get the heroes because he's going to hold Erica off, and of course ends up getting caught as a result of Shadow Man's antics. And so he goes and gets all these heroes and shows up, and most of these people don't have no clue who the other is, right? The Harbinger kids know who Eternal Warrior are, but I don't think that Archer and Armstrong know the connection with the Harbinger kids. And certainly this Magnus character, and you see that bottom panel with Chris looking at him, little foreshadowing there, right? And so because she was not that far along, but in Unity, time flows differently. So she'll have the baby there. And the funny moment where Zephyr asks him, Magnus, where he's from. Yep. He says the Ottawa sector. Oh, you're Canadian then.
And then she kind of looks. I mean, there's a lot of subtleness, like when it comes to like the character building, that I think was always really powerful with Valiant comics. And I think these little hints and clues are designed for us to pick these things up, right? Which I really love.
Mm-hmm.
You've done a good job with. So I mean, a lot of these then are just really them, making move, on the whole thing, on the whole Erica's complex, right?
Yeah.
And then
lots of dinosaurs, which we love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I noticed there's a lot of skipping around as well, where it's like fast forward, like day 2, and it's another moment. Right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I noticed about all the Unity issues that I've read so far is it's all over the place, and whatever book you're in, they try to focus on that character or that group, but there's just so much going on at any given moment,
Yeah, and it feels very choppy too. I mean, but I think the whole pregnancy thing was a big key part for Harbinger, because even here it's like Flamingo, is encouraging her to tell Sting, but then she couldn't, and so there's all these kind of missed opportunities, even though she had every intention to want to tell him, what's going on.
And then here we are, day way into the future, and she's starting to look a little, pregnant.
Yeah. Well, then the funny part is he goes, "Oops." He kind of accidentally, he has thoughts about wanting to get into her head. And then Flamingo does her thing, which I thought was pretty funny.
Right. Yeah, she was trying to distract him and give like him an excuse. See, like, you come with me. That's the way she went with Torque. I don't have a problem with it because that Flamingo was Torque's girlfriend, right? So she's trying to, but Pete's not falling for it, and then he ends up in Chris's mind where he finds out the truth.
What do they call that now? Like the kids call it like ambidextrous or something, like relationship where a group of friends all hang out, but they can all sleep with each other. It's a thing.
Polycule?
Yeah, poly something. Yeah. I have a friend whose son is part of one of those communities, and it's funny because to me, it kind of reminds me, like, this is a little ahead of his time, but Flamingo's attempting to jumpstart one of those communities.
I don't know if she was quite like that, but maybe.
Unintentionally.
Yeah, unintentionally.
If it did happen, then it would have been it. It would have been the first appearance of that type of community,
right,
in this issue. But anyways, like, just to kind of fast forward, I mean, then obviously, this happened. He was confiding her that, I was thinking about reading into her mind, but he kind of gave like, didn't seem like he was going to, but then he does, right?
Yeah.
By accident. Like, whoops, where am I?
Right.
Yeah, and basically finds out. And I thought this was very cinematic as a dream.
Good classic 9-panel page.
Yeah. So he finds out. She, it's always like that teenage drama, of course.
Yep. And then they have a fight.
Yeah, fight. He takes off, and then I like this comment where he's like, first he wasn't ready to fight, but then he goes off on his own.
I think
what's all these teenagers?
Troubled young man.
What's up, Tom? Welcome.
Yeah, he's taking out some of his rage on everything, and he bites off a little more than he was ready to chew with Erica.
So how does this work when it comes to like an Erica? Because she's pure energy, right? But he's more about getting into the mind of things. So how do their powers clash in that way? Like, how does he access her? Like, he only can attack her with the stuff, the telekinesis that can move things. He can't really get into her mind, right? Is that
right? Yeah, I mean, he's pretty powerful. I forget. There's a scene in one of the issues. It's not in Harbinger, but where she talks about how he's powerful, but he can't really hurt her. That there's only a handful of the heroes that she really fears, that could actually take her down. Obviously, Solar being one of them,
right?
And then the other one being Rye. So she, but she makes that comment about him, like he is powerful and he's, to be reckoned with, but he really can't ultimately kill me.
Yeah. So took off more than he could buy through, and then they make up basically at the end of this issue.
Supposedly, but through the rest of the thing, all the way to 25, they struggle with this thing until
there's a lot of tension. Yeah,
a ton. So I don't know if you have that spread, Jason, but Simonson basically takes over.
Uncle Walt.
Yeah, Mr. Walt himself, which is freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah,
like these are great covers. I remember, I was like, wow, like this is badass. And my favorite was the Archer and Armstrong one.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Now I've got a page from that issue too.
That's great. And the last one for Frank Miller, my favorite was the Eternal Warrior one. Look kind of like Wolverine,
Okay. Yeah, number one.
He did. All right. So what happens here? I mean, lots happened between 8 and 9, right?
Well, yeah, you got 8 whole issues because this is part 16.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is right there at the end of it. I mean, this leads right into the end, into the final battle or Unity.
Yeah, so at this point, Armstrong is basically delivering Chris's baby.
Yep.
Yeah, desperate times call for desperate
drinking
measures.
to do it. Yes.
I love Armstrong. He's freaking hilarious, dude. Of course, the baby pops out, and
that's an ugly baby.
Yeah. Looks like Winston Churchill.
A little bit, yeah.
That wasn't a compliment, so.
And then, so what happened here? I forgot. Like, Magnus, did he almost get her? I mean,
yeah, he hit her. I think this was over in the Magnus issue.
Mm-hmm.
He hit her, but obviously she's like, "Ow, that hurt." But again, you're not in your league, dude.
Yeah, because essentially his power is basically like Torque, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Just really, really strong.
Hard skin.
Yeah. A hard skin as well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So not like Torque, because Torque didn't have hard skin, right? Because he got stabbed.
Yeah, it was hard, but it was not impenetrable, and neither is Magnus's. But
okay, makes sense. Okay, so the baby's out now, and then Rye is still around. So Rye really, I guess we'll talk about his fate later.
So going back to that other page where everybody's kind of hanging out after the baby's born. So Andre owns that page right there.
Oh,
wow, that's cool.
Yeah. The infamous Andre.
Right. Andre. We gotta get Andre up here for sure.
Yeah.
Like one of the. Okay. What else? So basically, let's blast through this. We're going through. This was kind of a cool moment where he says, "Remember, Magnus, I kept my pledge." So he's holding everyone down. Basically.
Yeah. So this is a scene that's repeated through multiple issues. Solar 13, which is the next part of the story, I believe, is in there. The Rye 7, it's in there. But he basically holds the Maleeves and everybody else off until they can get Solar out of that wormhole. And so this is really where Sting, Pete ups his game as far as being able to, I mean, you get to thinking about, man, where is this guy's powers stop, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So he actually saved Solar, right?
So he pulls him out of the wormhole, and I have that issue. I have that page right there where they land on the right.
Yeah. Nice, great page.
And so I got all the characters laying around, and so he pulls them out, and they're like, "Yeah, I think Rye's not dead because here come the rest of the guys." So Rye's gone at that point, and so he's all the people are coming after them now.
But now it's almost like an escape, right? At this point.
They're trying to find a safe spot, but there's not one. And then, he's going to go off on his tangent to save Chris and the baby again. Yep. He finds her, goes after her to rescue her.
There. She's like, "I love you. I really, really love you."
Well, and this is one of those again, I almost foreshadowing moments because he's like, "Look, I done blown my steam off. I get it. It is what it is. But me and you were together with this baby. But we find out that's not going to be the case, right?
No, exactly. Thanks to
And so this is the lead up to the final battle. I actually have that panel. So there's another page that didn't make the cut, and I got it, but the panel up at the top of that one did on that page.
top right here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And so it's I mean, it was a great page. I mean, but for whatever reason, they kind of redone it, but they kept that panel. No. So I guess that page, wherever it exists, that there's a stat of that panel there. So yeah, so Geoff comes to the end and he says, "Hey, I need that baby."
Yep, basically.
He did the Werner Herzog. I want to.
Did I miss that, or is it here? Is it? Oh, it's the last. It's the last.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And so again, this is in Solar 13 and also Unity 1, or Unity 0 rather. And so where he takes the baby into the future, and we find out that the baby is actually Magnus.
Yeah. Cool.
I was very surprised about that. I had no idea.
But isn't it so smart? It's so cool that like they connected it that way.
Yeah, it's a cool way to tie it into the older the gold key property, right?
What?
Well, and if you talk about like Rye, Rye, of course, at this point, Bloodshot is not in the Valiant universe. Mm-hmm. Rye 0 gives kind of the introduction of Bloodshot, and then also like fast forward to the deal, and we find out Rye's connection to Bloodshot.
Is Rye 0 one of those ones like Harbinger 0 where it came out later, like after Rye 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
you read that first? Is that what happened?
I haven't read anything from Rye yet.
Got it.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it comes out after, because in the last part of the Rye 0, it talks about the new Rye. That's how he actually gets the blood of heroes, which is what Bloodshot had, or what they end up calling that.
Okay.
And so that, again, that's how they tie it back. Eternal Warriors in part of Rye in the Future Force, and so they're tying the future people to the past.
All right. So then, Unity, we kind of did a quick wrap up there. So let's go to the next release. What happened here? What am I doing wrong?
Uh-oh. You broke it.
Did I break it? Yeah, I think it went back too many times. Maybe I broke it. Here. Now they're trying to sell me something.
Of course.
Harbinger. Back to the 90s. Okay, so I guess I can't go back too many times, or else it just breaks. So
that's funny.
Let's see. Series info. Okay, got it. I'm learning. Here we go. Boom.
New platform, new problems.
Exactly.
Uh-oh.
I don't know why it's like all the way back here now too.
There you go.
Here we go. Boom. So issue number 10.
I like that they put that there's a first appearance on the cover there. Let everybody know. Buy this book. Yeah. Save it.
This is the official one. Yeah, there's no argument. This is it.
That's right. If only they had thought to do that on Hulk 180, right?
Right.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Or even like you think about New Mutants 86 or 87, like there's a full-on cable like in 86 at the last page, right? But it's 87 considering his first appearance.
Yeah.
All right, no arguments here.
Book, it'll be worth money in 30 years.
Exactly. All right, so we kind of pick up where we left off. Like they're sent back
with the solar sparkles. I love it.
Yes, I love those. Those are like very, very Valiant. There's no like argument. Like the energy sparkles are, this is Valiant's brand, which I thought was great. Magic. Okay, so what happens here? Now they're back at Doctor's. They're catching him up.
Yeah, he brings him up to speed there, what went down. He's like, whoa, I can't believe that all happened. I mean,
because like they were only gone for a few days, and then but they experienced like years or months or whatever.
Yeah, so again, she was barely pregnant when they left, and then not only did she have the baby, but the baby's not here anymore. It's like, what?
Yeah, and the doctor's just like, wait, you look like you just had a baby. What happened?
yeah, about that.
Very funny.
They're like, Doc, that's not even the craziest part. Let me tell you about the dinosaurs.
Right.
It's pretty funny. And then you have these gloves that are kind of like a preview as to, you know, someone's tracking them. Someone's kind of looking into this.
Yep.
So there's a bit of a kind of a Mission Impossible mission happening around the
Wonder who it
household.
could be.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is this is Chris and Pete, you know, trying to hash it out, you know, trying to
have a life together.
Yeah, I actually own that page on the right there.
Oh, nice.
And so he tells her, hey, we'll get through this together, and he's going to go try to get a real job.
And I like that he's interviewing at you know, a division of Orb Industries, which is the company that Exo owns.
Right.
I thought that was fun.
Yeah, those tie-ins are super fun for sure, and they look a little older now too, right? The way they're drawn.
Well, and certainly, you know, because of the experiences they've been through, you expect some maturity in the character, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that he's got to get a job because money's not infinite, which is a little bit of a difference in what.
Well, and it's kind of funny too, right? Because there's that issue early on where they robbed the Eighth Day office, but they don't have that money anymore.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, it eventually goes away. Nice little Two Towers or Twin Towers reference. And,
oh my God. This is literally like a cut and paste of a photo, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, this is introducing a new Syot here.
Okay.
And,
which guy on
the lady? She's actually on the cover.
Mm-hmm. Did they give her a code name? I can't remember now.
Yeah, they did. I'm trying to remember what it was. Because it was funny how you set the thumbnail up, because she's doing like this, and then my face is right there, so it looks like she's like and lightning striking Newell, you know.
Yeah.
So here's the first look at the hardcore guys.
Mm-hmm. So they attack them in the alley to take them down. And so, you know, hardcore, you know, these guys have implants in their brains. And so basically allows them to have Syot-like powers. But it's very, they have to request powers and they have to rotate through them. So they can't.
I thought that was a neat thing. You know, they have to call back to home base, say, I want to be able to fly. And they're like, well, you've already got, you know, eye lasers and this other thing. We got to take one away so that you can fly. There's like a limited number of superpowers that can be handed out.
Yeah. Well, they can't do but one at a time. Right. So if you're getting rid of one, you have to get the other. And so we get introduced to those guys. Actually, the first page they were introduced in this issue was shown earlier on one of these episodes by Brian Wells, actually, because he owns it, showed it off on here. But yeah, this is a new team. Hardcore would go on to have their own series, and it actually has the only cover for Valiant ever drawn by Jim Lee.
I know. Wow. That's true. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That's wild.
All right.
If we remember, we have to ask Bob about the true story of that, because I've heard different accounts as to how he got that to make be a reality. But yeah, so only Jim Lee ever cover. And of course, Maniac, which is the hardcore guy to the left, right there under the Captured by Heart, he dies in the first issue. I've got the page where he gets grabbed.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! You got the page?
Yeah, I own the page. The page. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Hardcore, I don't remember like super connecting with, because I felt like I was really young. They were just older dudes, you know. Like, it just didn't feel like I definitely relate with the Harbingers more, and the hardcore was almost like a kind of a background thing. So I don't know, and they kind of remind me of like Ghostbusters for some reason.
Yeah, I could see some of that, and you know they're more of a, like, if you like military type of operations, then you know that's more of your deal. But they do kind of cross over, because their main deal is to go after Psyots, right? Because really they're wanting to go after Toyo Harada. That's their main deal. And so then they basically associate and lump everybody that's a Psyot in with Toyo Harada. And it's in this issue where they really have the battle, and they rescue Pete, and he activates New Girl's powers there. And so he realizes that, he wasn't doing the right thing by capturing these kids. They're just kids. They're not going against Toyo Harada. With him, they're against him.
Yep.
And so basically the enemy, my enemy is my friend.
Right.
It's kind of that deal. So he tells them right there at the end, it's like, hey, go get him.
And what is her power? Like super slap?
Right. No, she do like the speed type deal. So
okay, like Flash.
So he
Carl.
So to rescue her, he activates her powers. He gets into her mind up there at the top and activates her powers.
That's just a slow-mo slap so that we can perceive it because it's so fast.
That's right.
So that was hardcore. We had a little run-in with them. And what was interesting about this next issue was I thought David Lapham, he wrote pencil, and then Gonzalo inker. Like, there's not a lot of credits here. What's up with that?
Everybody just doing a bunch of different hats,
Yeah, it's funny how often that happens. Like, even when we were doing EXO, like I think it was the colorist at one point became the writer and the colorist,
Yeah.
Everybody had to do whatever they had to do,
Okay, so we're diving into issue 12. It starts with Flamingo just lighting up her bed. Like, what the heck is going on here? I remember actually pretty vividly that it was around this time I started fading off my reading on Harbinger.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Well, she's having a bad dream, remembering about Torque, and they want to get a little revenge. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. So it's been a few issues since he's been gone, but so they're going to pick that storyline back up to really want to go after the egg breaker that killed him. So
got it. Now they're on the offensive, basically.
Mm-hmm. But, again, they don't really know. And, VH1 really didn't flesh out Toyo Harada like VEI did. And his power skill set, you just knew he was the big bad. You really didn't know what level his powers could reach.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't really understand what he could do right up until he kind of explained everything that had been going on all the way into number 25.
Yeah, exactly. And then for him to go up, well, we won't spoil 25 for anybody that hadn't read it, but for him to run into what he did there. And so, yeah, he's definitely one of the puppet masters, pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes.
So the revenge starts here, right? They kind of do a surprise to the guy who killed Torque, right?
Yep.
And then
it didn't turn out quite the way they wanted to.
No, not exactly.
Because all the egg breakers are there, and so it turns into an all-out brawl. Actually, a couple of these pages here have not too long ago were on Heritage.
Really?
Oh wow.
That one right there on the left. There's another one where she lights him up, and it really gives Flamingo a chance to kind of shine there too, showing off her skill sets, which I like, because a lot of time, and maybe they were just kind of putting everybody out there to see which one was more powerful, but we'll see that Zephyr or Faith gets her time in the spotlight in the next issue. But like Flamingo here is really more the main character, as opposed to just focusing on the one main lead. It is a team book.
Yeah,
so let's let everybody kind of have their chance to shine.
No, I love that. And I don't know if she lights him on fire and kills him, but I guess it looks like
that's a pretty big boom.
She doesn't, right? She doesn't kill
so him. Like he inhales the fire, and that's how he obviously his skin's a lot tougher to break than what Torque's was. And so she goes after him. She passes out, and she's like, look, it doesn't feel. I don't feel better about Torque being gone as a result.
Right.
So. That's good. So it's kind of cool. It kind of starts with her, ends with her, and it's really a cool arc. But real quick, we got Born in the Comics chiming into our hardcore #1 cover that Lane said it was to get Jim Lee tickets for sold out U2 concert via
I have heard that. And Steve Markowski or whatever was the big promoter. I mean, that's how they got Aerosmith on the
Yeah.
Shadow Man issue. So,
And before we move on to the next issue, we got Mr. Tom McDonald. Art looks a little Perez-ish.
All the way from Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. And thanks for putting that charity event on last night. If you guys haven't seen it on The Experience, definitely check out The Experience. Tom and Jeffrey Wedding, they hosted a charity auction for a mutual friend of ours, Daryl's fallen officer. So check that out. All right. This cover looks familiar.
Hey.
little Hammage. A little Hammage, yeah.
All right. And, in a way, Jason, you kind of gave a preview as to, like, how they're, even though it's a team book, they started kind of focusing on different characters and their stories, right? So this one is pretty obvious who they're focusing on.
Right. Yeah. And, she's really leaning into her nerd culture, which, wasn't as big of a deal back then as what it is today. I mean, she's nerding out, going to the comic book shop, and
so cool.
And so so here she talks about ElfQuest. So Wendy Penny and Richard Penny, the makers of ElfQuest. So there's several ElfQuest pages in here. So Wendy Penny is
so cool.
Credited as one of the artists of the book.
Who's this guy again?
It's just a random bum they found in them.
Okay.
And so he takes her into his secret lair or whatever, and then they get jumped.
She's a random bum, and random dudes, random sewer dwelling gangsters show up.
Yeah, we're gonna meet our burnt crotch friend. He always seems to show up.
I thought it was really funny that Zephyr references ElfQuest a lot because she has an ElfQuest shirt on in at least a couple of issues, and then this issue, having the actual pages, which is cool. I just thought that was kind of fun.
Well, and it also shows, like, back in the day when these comic books were coming out, nobody had any idea the value of the IP because there was always new content coming out somewhere, right? Nowadays everybody's going back to the well and rehashing a lot of it, except for people like 24/7 Comics who came out with Bladesmith. See what I did there?
Thank you. Yeah, we should plug it real quick, actually.
Yeah.
The crew has been working really hard, live streaming, promoting, doing interviews for Bladesmith.
Oh my God, look how much money you've made.
I know. Except,
and I helped.
I wish there was no fees. If there was no fees, I'd be celebrating. The fees definitely dampen it a little bit, but it's worth it because Kickstarter does expose you to a pretty large audience. But we are, we have Bladesmith. Thanks for that reminder, Jason. I often forget to plug. Was
it fully funded on the first day?
It was fully funded on the first day. So thank you everyone who chimed in on this. But it's been a labor of love for sure for the team here, and we're really early on our campaign, so we're kind of on our fourth day now.
Plenty of time to make all the money.
Hope so. I mean, usually it's the first 48 hours and the last 48 hours that you get most of it. So it's typically a little quieter now, and that's why any little plug, any kind of share always helps. But for some reason, people just don't give a crap in between. So it's kind of one of those
they either want to be first to the trough or get it before it's gone.
Exactly.
That FOMO kicks in.
That's
Man, this now that you look at the last few covers, they love to do a lot of like homage stuff, right? Like this one is an obvious.
That one's religious. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, like a religious thing. Yeah,
referencing some classical art,
right? Well, and nowadays it ain't nothing to do an homage cover. I mean, how many times has Hulk 181 or Hulk 340 been homaged?
Yeah.
But back then it was a little less. Often. And so here we have a little classical deal. This probably came out about the same time as the death of Captain Marvel. If you remember the first Marvel graphic novel.
Oh yeah, that was the same pose.
So anyway, it's a great pose. And this is kind of Chris's coping issue.
So it looks like they made a conscious decision after Valiant to focus on each character. It gave them each an issue, right? So this is kind of cool.
Well, it's a little foreshadowing too, because 25 again takes a totally different direction for the team. It was nice. These different callbacks. which were new panels, not just rehashing of the old ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a
Oh,
nice.
actually, super sorry, I forgot to chime in on this. Creator-wise, these are like all new names compared to what the issues before.
Yeah.
So, did you guys notice that? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I noticed it when I was reading it.
okay.
So Howard Simpson takes over. So this is probably about the same time David Lapham's going with Shooter over to Defiant, and so he's doing Warriors of Plasm over there. So they've got to get a new writer. Howard Simpson takes over. Gonzalo Mayo is still doing the inks.
Yep.
And Maurice Fontana actually does a lot of the writing for the Valiant titles all the way up to the end.
So at this point, it feels still pretty consistent with all the kind of Valiant universe tie-ins. Art-wise, I think they've now established a house style, so it feels very consistent. So I'm not too thrown off. I think it's maybe like a 10% evolution for me. But
yeah, like if I hadn't noticed the credits when I moved to this issue, I don't know that I would have even realized it wasn't David Lapham. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that the art is identical, but it was close enough that it was. And then with the coloring being relatively the same too, it kind of it wasn't jarring.
The coloring and the inker probably has a lot to do with that, right? So, but yeah, this scene's kind of alluded to in Rise Zero. Where she writes the letter, and if I remember correctly, in Magnus, he eventually gets that letter.
That's
cool.
That's super cool.
Spoiler.
And so this whole issue is a lot of Magnus and Chris. So, if you were to do a quick recap, is it more of like a dream and premonition to what's to come kind of thing?
What could have been.
Yeah, or could have been. Or could have been. Okay. Interesting.
So these are the egg breakers that you saw. They were practicing because there are certainly there's our burnt crotch friend.
Oh, there we go.
And so Axe actually, if you read Rise Zero, doing a few spoilers here, but Rise Zero, we see the scene that's kind of played out on Bloodshot 2 cover, and but it's a later. When that happens, but he takes the blood of heroes. He's actually in the later issues of Rise. Towards the end, he's not at that point a human. He's a technopath as a Psyot, so he's basically moving his conscious into all these machines at that point.
Yeah, he's a character for sure.
I mean, a guy with that kind of haircut. I mean,
exactly. Mullet.
I still just remember that issue of Exo where they had the big throwdown and he got his ass beat. It was pretty funny.
Well, yeah, he had a commando. So especially back in VH1, the Man War was the one you wanted to have.
Right.
The commando was a much, which the Rye that passed away, his wife ends up with the commando suit. But anyway, it's not as powerful as the Man War. Obviously.
Right.
What's cool here, though, doesn't it remind you guys of another kind of room, like a danger room, maybe?
A little dangerous there, yeah.
So it's kind of cool how, like, the egg breakers, in a way, it's kind of like, I wonder if when they were creating this universe, they thought, if there was a moment when someone said, "What if Professor X was a bad guy?" and that was a Harada, and then the egg breakers, in a way, are like the X-Men, right? And so they really then kind of play that off where they have similar functions in the way they're organized.
Well, and we're also introduced. I think the CLZ app refers to them as cameos here, but this is Livewire and Stronghold. Yes, serious haunches.
Yes.
But Livewire. That's Livewire, the redhead, and Stronghold. The blonde guy, which would be parts of the Avengers type series that comes out later called Secret Weapons 1.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so they're the main characters of that. When VEI rebooted things, these characters are both there. Livewire is actually one of the main characters, but they race swapped her.
So it is interesting.
She's black in there, but she's one of the main characters of VEI, and Stronghold's one of the egg breakers. So they're another thing, but between them really.
I might add that to Dinesh's question. Why was she race swapped? Why
not?
Why was live? Why race swap? Was that
Livewire,
that was the beginning? That was the first appearance of DEI initiative,
right?
And Marvel took it from there. So who's this guy? What happened to him?
Yeah, he was in that room earlier.
Okay.
I think he's one of the rogue Psyops friends with Axe. If you want to say if Axe has any friends, and so Harada goes in there and
Harada.
Well, he's like spying, right? And so Harada detects him.
Got it. Messes him up. Well, here goes. So what happened here? They basically confront them.
Yeah, they show up and ding, and wrong floor to get off on for sure.
Right.
So we're going into issue 16. So this is the last issue.
Yeah.
Before we get into this, Noel, I know you had mentioned to Jason and I that it was kind of so with Harbinger. Were you still engaged up to here?
Yeah. So what I said was that this is my least favorite of the ones that I've read so far. I still thought it was entertaining, and like honestly, like going through it like this with you guys is making me appreciate it even more. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun book. Yeah, and it fits in well, and it kind of fills in some of the holes of the questions and stuff that I had.
Yeah.
You know, it's like as I keep reading more and more, like seeing how it all kind of connects together makes it really interesting. You know.
Yeah, and it's very intricate. Just the way, I mean, Jason, I give it to you. You remember all the connections between all the different pieces. Like I have.
Well, I mean, recency bias, right? Like it's all.
Yeah. I need to be able to like reread some of these, but I think I'm gonna have to try to catch up on some of these to refresh my memory. So this is a good way for me to get refreshed as well.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so it continues the elevator. Man, Ash is just looking more and more evil. This guy.
Yeah, and of course you see Sting's trademark, eye glit.
It's such a little thing, but I really like that they did that.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's kind of like if you think with X-Men, how Jean Grey's like telekinesis is like pink generally. It's kind of their trademark, right? And that's your cue that this is something's to go down, or
somebody's brain is getting messed with.
Yeah.
It's really funny because I think early on, one of the issues, I can't remember which one it was, but I think one of the characters actually uses the term brain rape. And that made me laugh.
Brain rape?
Yeah.
It's a sting. That's why it hurts.
I see what you did there.
I thought that was a great way for him to get a nickname too. Like, when he pokes my brain, it stings. Like, so we call him Sting.
A lot of gray areas back in the day.
Well, a lot of the even though they've kind of gone through Unity and had all these fights with the Egg Breakers, the fact that they get their butts handed to them a lot of times and barely even escape. If we think back about Torque dying, it kind of shows kind of more realistic in nature, because if you ever been like with the team book, and then like somehow these guys just come and know how to fight together. Like they play off each other's weaknesses, like even though they don't know them. Yeah. And it's like, how do you do that? That comes from years of practice.
That's a fun page right there.
Yeah.
What the heck happened?
He uses his mass powers and ends up blowing the guy off.
This is another reason I love Valiant comics. Like moments like this. Right, they really they give a crap about being PG-13. Definitely bordering XXX or NC-17.
Well, and then the other thing, I'm not a big Game of Thrones guy, but what I've been told about Game of Thrones is like if you like a character, don't get too attached to them because they're going to die.
Yeah,
and so it really adds gravitas when you can like have a character die and you go, wow, this really ups the ante.
Well, that and like we talked about last time, I was kind of surprised that Torque died the way that he did, and that he never came back. It felt like that, it was just one of those things where, I've been so trained by Marvel Comics over the years, that I kind of half expected him to come back. Even like if, because like the egg breakers had him in the back of the ambulance and they took his body, right?
Right.
Like I wouldn't have been surprised if 5-10 issues later or something at some point they had brought him back to life, or they figured out a way to make him a cyborg or something and brought him back as a villain. Because then you introduce conflict when Peter and his crew have to fight their former friend and all this stuff, right? But they never did that. They let it ride, and I thought that was really cool. And they dealt more with how everybody felt about that afterward, and like the fact that they're going to get revenge and stuff like that. You know, I appreciated that part of it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think even as I review all this with you guys, like I remember like Harbinger having a lot of heart. Like they weren't my favorite, but there was a lot of heart in the stories where I want to follow them. But I think a lot of times it's because visually they just didn't really stand out as much. They just look like, you know, day-to-day people. So
day-to-day people.
Yeah, they look less elevated and they look more kind of like, and maybe that was an intention. They want to be very relatable, right? Like and grounded, which I think that comes across for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times they're not even in their costumes.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, they didn't even really have costumes until they went to the Harbinger headquarters and they just took some extra clothes, you know.
That's right.
Right.
Well, which really plays off in VEI because spoiler, but because in VEI they get these people coming after them because they think that they're Harbinger folks because they have the little Harbinger bird.
Yep.
And they're like, whoa, we stole these clothes. They're not even ours.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no. So I mean that wraps up our 8 to 16. We moved through pretty fast today, actually.
Yeah,
which kind of works out. I didn't share this, but I actually have to have a hard out today because I have to drive the wife to Orange County.
Yeah, I've got a funeral to go to. So yeah.
Hope everything's okay, man. Sorry. But yeah, we I think it was good. I think going through 8 through 16. I mean, you know, Jason, you want to set us up for 17 through 25 because that's going to be another arc, right? As to
so it's the end of the arc of the Harbinger as we know it. Yeah. So things are leading up to a final showdown for them with Harada, and there's going to be a big change to the book, you know. So they introduce, of course, the Sciats in this issue and the last one with Livewire and Stronghold. And they'll play a bigger part, as I mentioned before, in the Secret Weapons team. So,
yeah, you know, and it's funny because, you know, you, Jason, you had told me, like, you know, you don't really have to read past 25 because it completely changes. I did read 26 just to see, and yeah, absolutely, it's very different.
Okay,
I think
like definitely focus more on that on the next stream, which will be on Wednesday, right? Upcoming next Wednesday. Yeah, we're gonna do a little earlier. It's gonna be our first Comics Pro presentation for 24/7 Comics next week. So our team has been like all hands on deck preparing. And for those of you who don't know what Comics Pro is, I think Tom would know what Comics Pro is. It's like a retailers conference where they all bring all the publishers and retailers together, and all the publishers basically present for what they're going to be doing for the year. So, you know, half nerve-wracking, but also half like just busy trying to prepare for that. So yeah, we're going to stream a few days earlier next week to wrap up this series. So last few minutes, any show and tell this week? I've been very slow on my pickups, but I also remember that I forgot to share a couple pickups.
Oh,
I think did I share this yet?
I don't think you did.
I don't think so, but this is something I picked up at OAX, and
which I didn't get to see in person.
Yeah, I don't think you saw anything in person. So Nura Levy, amazing. Probably the most different and unexpected Azrael Batman commission I got.
Yep.
But you know, he also had Batman killing Azrael, so that was that. But there's also these commissions that were like the mystery sketches that I picked up as well. So it's funny. I joke that they probably got the same reference wherever they pulled.
It almost looks like it, doesn't it?
Exactly. So, but they're all kind of unique in their own style. Once I kind of
yeah.
So those are my latest show and tells. Noel, Jason, anything new?
I don't have anything new.
I don't either. Like I was saying on the text thread, it seemed like it was like a barren wasteland. I mean, even for Heritage, not winning nothing there, and then all of a sudden I win all these auctions. So I'll soon have a plethora of pages.
Yeah, same. There was one thing I was watching on this week's Heritage, and it got high quick, and then it's just been parked there for a while. But I bought a couple of things this morning that I told you guys about, so I probably won't be going after that heritage one, but hopefully soon I'll have a couple of pages to show off too.
Yeah, I was expecting to have something to show off today that was pretty significant, but I'll save it for a future stream because I dropped it out to framers last week, and typically they're pretty good about like delivering it the week after. But then I text, it was supposed to be yesterday, and I text her today, and I was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Sorry, I forgot to tell you the frames are like, of stock." And so she says she's checking everywhere to try to get it. So I think it'll be a few more weeks before I get it.
Gotcha.
So I'm excited to share that one.
Do you let your framers do a lot of the decision making in terms of like colors and that kind of thing, or do you put a lot of input into it?
Input, collaborative, but at the same time, my frames when it comes to paintings is all the same. Like all my frames are very like clean and simple. I just try not to take too much away from the art.
Yeah, no, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, keep it clean. I think you're like that too, right? I saw your frames and it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, well, like my Stingray frames, I had an idea. I tried it out on a small one. I liked it, and so I stayed with that, and I keep them all the same. And, other stuff I'll do slightly differently on a case-by-case basis. But I wanted to have that kind of uniform look to the way that the Stingrays are framed,
Yeah, that's cool.
You use museum glass, you guys?
I do. I'm actually, though, going to evolve, at least on the comic art side, because painting, you can't do anything. It just got to be open, so there's no glass. But my comic art, I think I've been like processing a shift in the art in my background, and when I do it, I'm gonna do kind of the FedEx copies, kind of like what a lot of people do that I'm learning, and a lot of it just has to be like just so I can start opening my windows, like that kind of stuff, because I can't. Like right now, I'm like about this light, pretty dark in here. So.
Right. I don't do museum glass. I do the museum quality acrylic. So it's lighter, it's flexible, so it's shatterproof. If like they ever fall off the wall or something, it's not going to break.
That's really expensive. Aren't those acrylics like super expensive? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it's worth it in my mind.
Yeah.
You know what? Like I have the one right above my desk here, the painting of Robot Man that I got from Richard Case. You can't tell it's got any glass in front of it, right? Because it's just that good. Like there's no glare. It's really great. So
it looks really nice. But
the UV protection and just being lighter weight and shatterproof to me makes it worth it. But
but the long answer to your question, Jason, is yes.
Well, no, I mean, it kind of makes sense. And I've questioned doing that myself because like if there was like a house fire, right? What do you grab? Grab the most expensive portfolio or start grabbing stuff off the walls, right? I mean,
I grab all the portfolios because they're in one place and I can hug them to me. And then my answer was of all the frame pieces, if I had to pick one to grab, it would be the Hildebrand.
Yeah,
that's true.
Makes sense.
We should have a whole discussion on that. But I got run, guys. And Born in the Comics says, while pencil inks are awesome, you should look at getting color pages.
Real quick,
that would be a good one with Dan Moeller to talk about all the
two things real quick. Number one, Bill has a show, an art drop show today with the DAC Art Collective. I'm wearing the hat. Matt DiTullio, starting right in just a minute. Number two, I will be on Ruben's show tomorrow night.
Woo! Let's go.
Come hang out.
I'll be there. Everyone go hang out and support the next two shows. Thanks, guys. Sorry, gotta go.
Right.
Have a great week. Wednesday.
Bye.